Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted and privileged to welcome a very senior academician and educator, Professor V Ramgopal Rao from New Delhi, India. Professor Rao, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Professor Rao is the immediate past director of IIT Delhi. He's an educator, researcher, innovator, entrepreneur, and an academic leader. He's been recognized, awarded, and felicitated several times. And he's an inventor of 49 patents. So, sir, thank you for speaking to me. Let's speak about your journey with IIT Delhi. Tell me about this journey and what led you to right to the very top of this very prestigious institution.
In fact, I started from a remote place in Telangana. I studied in Telugu medium until my 12th standard.
Okay.
That was in Mahabubnagar district of Telangana, a small place called Kolhapur. Not the Kolhapur in Maharashtra, but this Kolhapur in Telangana. So, so after studying in Telugu medium until 12th, there were not many options available for me. IIT exams were all only in English, and even now they are only in English and Hindi. So IIT, I did not even know about IITs until I finished my 12th. And the natural choice for all of us was to take the local entrance, which was in Telugu, and then seek admission in a local engineering college, which is what I did. But my journey actually started after I went to IIT Bombay for my master's, the MTech program. And that is where my real journey began, and that is where I got inspired by some of the finest individuals I came across, the faculty members. And I also could see that in a class we had students from all over the country, and I could also I realized that I am not any bad or worse, though I came from a different background. And once that realization set in, that I'm as good as anybody else, and once IIT Bombay, also showed me a kind of, raised my aspiration levels. And, after that, I did my master's, and then I went to Germany for my PhD. Then I went to US for a postdoctoral fellowship. Then by that time, IIT Bombay offered me a faculty position. So I came back and joined IIT Bombay in 1998 as an assistant professor. So that is how my journey began as a faculty.
And tell me, so for someone of your stature and caliber, was it a conscious decision to stay in academics or and not stay back in America?
That's a good question. In fact, after my postdoctoral stint in the US, I did have many opportunities, including continuing as a faculty member in the US itself. But I think I wanted to come back. I don't know why, but it was in 98 and I desperately wanted to come back. But I should also tell you, I wouldn't have come back had it not been an IIT. That time there were only 7 IITs, kind of 8 IITs maybe, but I nothing else, in a way would have excited me. Nothing else excited me at that time. I think because I wanted to be like one of my teachers at IIT Bombay. So when I was offered a position in Bombay, I just took it up, and I did not even have to think twice, kind of a thing. So, but had it not been IITs, if it was not an IIT, I think I would have continued in the US and spent my lifetime in the US.
Interesting. And then from IIT Bombay to IIT Delhi, when did that happen, sir?
Oh, IIT Bombay, I continued as a faculty member for about 18 years. From assistant professor to associate, then to professor, to then chair professor. And then we created major initiatives there in nanoelectronics. One of them is a center of excellence in nanoelectronics. So I was the project investigator, the chief investigator for that. So we set up major activities and a microelectronics group. When I joined in 98, it had about 4 or 5 PhD students working in the group. And by the time I left IIT Bombay in 2016, it had something like 200 PhD students. So that was a kind of a growth in just the microelectronics at IIT Bombay. And I came to IIT Delhi as a director. I was appointed as a director in 2016 for IIT Delhi, and that is how I came on a deputation from IIT Bombay. Spent 6 years as a director here, and my term just ended a couple of months ago. And now I am continuing here as a professor. Now I am trying to set up major other initiatives here, and there are I have some plans.
Amazing. So for my viewers and listeners, as the director of IIT Delhi, what does it take to keep an educational institution right at the very top?
I think one thing good about IITs is also the academic freedom that we have. We have much more autonomy as compared to any other institution in the country, other universities and other places. And I think places like IIT Delhi, IIT Bombay, all the older IITs that way also command a lot of respect at all levels, from the ministry, from public, and there's a lot of media attention too. But I think one thing, which I was not very happy with the way IITs were running, at least one of the reasons why I wanted to become a faculty member was there was education happening, there was teaching, learning, all of that. But I think, I wanted IITs to diversify a little bit. Not focus narrowly on just the engineering kind of a thing, because to make an impact, I realized that an engineer now needs to have an all-rounded kind of an education.
Correct.
So we started major initiatives here on the policy side, because I thought the policy and engineering need to go hand in hand. And also we started major initiatives on design side. So we have Department of Design. So we started, a lot of new initiatives on multidisciplinary research, because that is how research now becomes more impactful. If you want to take any research happening in the institutions and convert that into a product or a solution to a problem, the research inherently becomes multidisciplinary. Because problems don't come with a discipline, attached to them or tagged to them. I think problems are problems, whether it is solving the Delhi air pollution problem or doubling the farmers' income problem. They don't have any discipline. So people need to come as a group and work on them. So I always believed in that kind of a concept. Even as a researcher, I led large multidisciplinary projects at IIT Bombay. Some of those activities are now startups, and now they have their own products and all of that. So I wanted that to happen at the institutional level. So we launched major initiatives, and even on the innovation front, I always felt that India is not protecting its IP enough. While we are generating a lot of knowledge, but that knowledge to wealth translation is not happening as much as what we would have liked it. And in the process of knowledge to wealth translation, there is the patenting, which we are pretty weak. For example, on research today, we are ranked third position in the world, but on the patents thing, we are ranked 37th in the world. So that is something that I wanted to change. For example, when I joined IIT Delhi in 2016, IIT Delhi was filing 15-20 patents per year. But this year, last year, even during the peak of COVID, we filed something like 163 patents. And now this year, looking at the growth, we should be filing anywhere close to 200 patents kind of a thing.
Incredible.
That 10 times kind of a growth in 5 years is what I think needs to happen at the national level. And for that, doing this multidisciplinary research, connecting with other institutions in Delhi, departments connecting with other departments. So all of these we did as major initiatives here, kind of funded initiatives. And that is how, we have almost a 4 times growth in the research output. From in terms of research funding, we have seen a 4 times increase. The research publications have grown 2x, doubled in during the last 5 years. And even patents, have increased by something like 7 times or 8 times kind of a thing. So that is a kind of a growth that we have seen.
Incredible. And a question that is often asked around the world, that what is the secret sauce that IITs have that they keep producing year after year world leaders, global leaders, entrepreneurs. What is it, sir? And I'd love to get your perspective.
I think, it's the faculty, the quality of faculty that IITs are still able to attract. I think, that sets IITs apart when you compare them with any other institution in the country. And, I think we are still able to recruit, some of the finest people as faculty members. I think they bring in the rigor. The academics is pretty competitive here. You admit the best students in the country, and then you ask them to compete with each other. But when they compete with each other, they also need to be thrown sufficient kind of challenges to excite them, to inspire them, and for them to work at that highest level. So I think if you ask me, it's the faculty who build the IITs or who built the IITs. And even all of us who have been in the IIT system, I mean, there are such dedicated people you still see in the system. I think they are the ones who bring about the transformation. I always say that IIT education, should not be just incremental. You joined and you learned something and you got a degree. IIT education needs to be transformative, and that is what happened with me. In my MTech, 2 years that I spent at IIT Bombay completely transformed my life. And after that, I continued to do research at IIT Bombay, then moved to Europe and all of that. But that transformation happens because of the faculty members that I came across, and I was inspired by them. And they were the best that any system could offer, and they were very well connected with everybody abroad. I think that excellence, that and that rigor that happens in the system. I think all of that, the credit I give completely to the quality of faculty we are able to recruit. And I always said that as long as we are able to recruit that quality faculty, I think IITs will survive. And you take these 700 faculty to any country in the world, they can create another IIT there. But I think that is one thing which we should never compromise on when it comes to quality. Merit and merit alone, must be the yardsticks for recruitments. And you at the student level, you can do anything, but they all must be taught by the best people.
Therefore, that leads me to the next question, sir, which is that the best students, the best faculty, producing so many patents. Obviously, when you are the best, there are lots of egos. How does the director of IIT manage so many top class people? So what is your leadership style?
No, I always said that a good faculty member or a good student would never get to meet the director. Okay. I mean, as a faculty member at IIT Bombay, in 18 years, how many times would I have met with the director?
As a faculty member?
As a faculty member. So, because, there is so much of autonomy at the faculty level. If I want to do something, I don't have to go to director and ask for anything. If I want to start a 200 crore initiative, I go to the ministries, I go to industries, I go to the donors, and I generate that funding. And I have all the autonomy in the system to actually execute the project. I think that autonomy that we have at the faculty level, is the reason why IITs have been successful, and that is why faculty have been able to perform at their highest levels. And unlike the university system where everything starts with the vice chancellor and ends with the vice chancellor, in IIT system there is a lot of empowerment at the faculty level, and the director role is to set the larger vision for the institute and recruit the best quality faculty, at regular intervals, because the growth comes from these new recruits. Existing people are already, let's say, if they are performing at their full potential, then the growth will not come year after year. The growth will come because of recruitments that we make. I always have looked at the director's role as setting a vision for the institute. During my time in 6 years, we started something like 10 new academic units have come into existence here, whether they are Department of Design, Department of Material Science and Engineering, School of Public Policy, School of Interdisciplinary Research. So I can name many of them which were not existent before. And then I was also looking at generating funds, the sort of the revenues that are required, the funds that are required to execute the vision of the institute. That is where we started these endowment funds. We launched a major endowment fund in the Rashtrapati Bhavan. And that night when alumni came and met with President of India, for a chai with President, that night alone we generated or we received commitments of 265 crores. Alumni from all over the world coming to have a chai with the President, the IIT Delhi alumni, and committing to give to the institute something like 265 crores that night. I think that was fundraising.
Yeah.
Then we also wrote proposals for Institution of Eminence, received 1,000 crore grant from the Government of India, involved many industries. So I think the fund generation, the resources is one thing I see as a very important aspect for the director. And then the faculty recruitment. So you set a vision for the institute, and which is multidisciplinary, the internationalization. While we are locally connected, we need to be globally networked. I think that is a model that we followed. So I think setting that vision and recruitment of faculty, the best quality human resource, and generating the resources for the institute. These are the three major aspects. I think once we do that, the institutions will be fine. So.
Fantastic. And the results are there to see. Nothing succeeds like success, I would imagine. So my next question to you, sir, is that after Y2K, Indian technology companies have made a paradigm change in the way the world looks at technology and India. What are the roles that these technology companies have done to put India on the global map?
I think, India now, if you ask anybody in the world, the first thing they associate with India is the IT, the information technology. So that I think the whole world sees us as the office kind of a thing for the world. I think that we have done very well. In fact, I was looking at some data. We export. I think in 2019 we exported something like $230 billion IT services, which is almost like the what Saudi Arabia exports as the fossil fuel, the crude oil. So I think that is the kind of strength that India has gained now. So things are only getting better. The exports are continuously going up. And during the COVID, the biotechnology sector has also got exposed now. Now, the Indian bio in India is seen as a pharmacy of the world. And, we are one of the very few countries, where we could develop our own vaccines. And the choice of vaccines that we have in India, even in Europe, they don't have them. Yeah. So I think, from that point of view, IT, BT, we have succeeded very well. Now, the next generation of technologies, for example, if you look at nanotechnologies, right? Nanotechnologies, India is ranked third in the world, when it comes to knowledge generation, the papers and the high quality research that we do. And that is where the knowledge to wealth translation needs to happen. And that is where many startups are coming into picture. So I call, whether it is IT or BT or NT, these are all platform technologies. Nanotechnology, like information technology, will have applications from automobiles to textiles. I mean, nothing will be left untouched by nanotechnology. And there India has gained a lot of strengths now. So I think India should again capture the world markets when it comes to nanotechnology products, nanotechnology services. I think that is where a lot of initiatives are required still for the translation of research. And even, after NT, I would think the cognitive technologies, particularly the AI, ML, there again, India is ranked, depending on which data you look at, anywhere, third rank to fifth rank in the world. So we are again doing a lot of high quality research. But again, applying these AI technologies, the AI will again have applications in every sector. Applying it to real world problems and then, generating the wealth out of this knowledge that we are able to generate is again very important. So I think while we are the world's, one of the favored nations when it comes to IT and BT, I think the next ones will be the nanotechnology and then the cognitive technologies or even the quantum technologies. Even that is where India can play a major role. So I think we have a huge opportunity to become a knowledge economy. I think IT, BT to these newer technologies, newer things is what we need to build our strength now, because the future will all be around these sort of technologies.
Very interesting. So, let me now move to another segment of our conversation, which is your startups. You have two deep tech startups, nanosniff.com and soilsense.com. Tell me a little bit about both of them.
Nanosniff we started because in Pune there was some bomb blast when I was in Bombay in 2008 2009 kind of a time frame. That is when the principal scientific advisor's office initiated a project at IIT Bombay with me as the PI to develop an electronic sniffer kind of a device, like to something which can replace a sniffer dog, an electronic nose kind of a platform. So that is what we started working on. And then we developed prototypes. We called it XSniff kind of a platform. And in 2011, we found that we have, some kind of a grip on the technology, and we can eventually develop that as a product. So in 2011, we started a company, Nanosniff, and then we transferred this technology to Nanosniff. And Nanosniff, started testing it in the field. And then there were lots of issues because it was indeed a deep technology kind of a area. And so we started working on it further. And now we have in the market what is called Nano Sniffer. Then if you just search on Google, you find Nano Sniffer. And Nano Sniffer is now finding acceptance from airports. And it actually costs 1/5 of what is available in the airports, which are all based on mass spectroscopy kind of technologies, while ours is the world's first a micro sensor based technology. And it costs 1/5 of what is available commercially, because it's a totally disruptive technology, hardly any maintenance kind of cost. So now airports are already beginning to buy that in India, and we are also now looking at international markets. So that is a story of Nanosniff. I think they have that exclusive detector product. For that, we have the US patent, European patent, and Indian patent. So that way, all the IP is protected there and it's available commercially. The second one is the Soil Sense, which we started about 3 years ago. And particularly because, when I look at the agriculture hasn't seen a lot of new technologies in the country. The productivity levels are still very low. So we focused on the precision agriculture. And, there we are now in the market with complete soil health monitoring systems. And we can detect nitrate, phosphate, and potassium in the soil, at the field, without having to send the soil samples to a lab or anything. Again, a very disruptive technology based on electrochemistry kind of principles. And so that is now available in the market again. And there is a weather station they also sell. And they also have technologies for irrigation purposes to save water in agriculture, because India doesn't have enough water. We have only 4% of world's water resources, while we have 18% of world's population. So we have technologies to save water, like soil moisture sensors, which can help reduce the water consumption in agriculture. So I think with the help of these macro nutrient sensors, the sensors for saving water, the weather stations, and there again we are now applying AI ML technologies to see can we predict diseases in the crop. Since now all the parameters around the soil, in the soil and around the plant, by using all of these, can you actually generate intelligent algorithms which can say that the crop might have a disease because of so and so reasons kind of a thing. These are the kind of things we are now doing. So both the companies are growing well, and both the companies have products in the market, and they're already selling quite well, and hopefully they will become even better in the future.
Amazing. So I have time for one more question. And this is a question for the many people who will listen to our conversation. What would you say are 3 lessons you would like our viewers and listeners to take away from your journey?
I think one of the things, at least I have always believed in, is whatever I have done, I have given my 100% to that. Whether the job was small, whether the job was big, everybody in the country knows that I do so many things, that if I accept to do something, then I do a good job. I think that is a sort of a reputation that I have built over a period of time. So I think that is important. I see very often people, taking up a job, though they are not interested, their heart lies somewhere else, but then they start the work, do a half-finished thing, and not do a good job. And these are the kind of things you see very often. And I have never been like that. And if I have taken up a job, I do a good job. And second thing is, I have always been a people's person. So I have been able to build large groups of people and get them to work together and deliver something as a group activity. And that happens because I have mostly remained selfless in my life. I have never, gone after positions or money or anything. Anybody who works with me, knows that I do things, where I am not expecting anything for myself, and I want to remain as selfless. And fortunately, I have always got whatever I needed without me asking for it. But anybody who knows me, I have always remained very honest, humble, and never really expected anything out of any activity. I have always given credit to people where it is due, and took the blame, even when it is not particularly aimed at me. So I think that is one thing that I have done, and and also I think aiming high is also important. I have never been satisfied with doing the routine kind of things. Even as a faculty member at IIT Bombay, when I joined, I was like any other faculty member. But then by the time I left, I have received almost every award, every honor that exists in the country. And all that happened because I was always, trying to push the boundaries. I was always bringing people together, set very high targets and execute them. I think, that aiming high is also very important. And again, that is something I find missing even in the IIT system. When I see students, these are all very brilliant kind of students.
Correct.
Their aspirations in life are very low. Most of them want to do an MBA from an IIM, find a job and settle down kind of thing. I think I have never been like that. I think I have always been, looking at, what more we can do and, how best we can do that kind of a thing. These are certain things which I have always followed and which have worked for me.
Amazing. So on that note of give your 100%, be a people's person, remain selfless, always aim high. Thank you so much, sir, for speaking to me. Thank you for talking to me about your absolutely incredible journey and what took you right to the top of India's most prestigious IIT. Thank you for talking to me about technology, about your leadership style, and about all the amazing work that you are doing in IIT. Thank you for talking to me about nanosniff and soil sense, and of course, your last life lessons. Thank you again, sir, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Garg. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.